What about the moving to like the economics and commercial
Mhm.
side? You've got you've got the the infrastructure provider, and then you've got the emitters themselves. There's classifications around who can claim the credits. Back when I was looking at it, it was a challenge because the emissions people have to claim those, I think, or they have to be the ones that are able to get those right. You can't be the midstream provider basically or the infrastructure provider and get those. You're basically providing a fee for service. Is that right? And then from there, it's the typical commercial structures like a midstream contract where you're getting a fee, you're getting dedication, you're getting a long-term commitment. You are, you know, basically binding yourself to provide this service. There's performance aspects to it, but just walk through how like these deals are structured, how they get done. What are some of those key points you got to work through when you're
Mhm.
trying to make this happen?
Yeah, so every, emitter has a different desire, but generally you have a cost of capture, a cost of transport, and a cost of storage. The storage sites have, I'll talk about that first. You have a royalty and fee structure that you're paying to the landowner.
Okay.
Um, that can be anything from $1 per acre, to a fixed fee over time, to a fee that's like a percentage of proceeds, depending upon how much CO2 is going in the ground.
Hmm.
Um, and those tend to be T with time plus renewals, um, on a certain volume. The pipelines are very very standard. They're like G&P, gathering and processing contracts with volume commitments and fee minimums. Some are percentage of proceeds, but I think most transport is going to be kind of a volume with a term, which is kind of 12 to 20 to 30 years, depending upon the emitter. And then depending upon term, the dollar per ton fee, varies. Longer term is a lower fee as you're depreciating that pipeline over a longer term as opposed to shorter term. Now, the emissions side, it's really a negotiation of, you have your compliance market, which is your 45Q tax credit, and then you have, ways to generate revenues beyond that. That could be, lower CI score products, and so you can make an e-methanol and ship it to Europe, and they'll pay a higher dollar amount for that. You could have a sustainable aviation fuel that you try to sell, into the LCFS market in California, or the emerging markets in the Northwest, or down the road, other areas. Or you could just have a voluntary credit created, which are then bought and sold on the voluntary carbon markets, and that volume is something that's going to grow a lot.
Hmm.
Um, but the emitters, it's just a negotiation, and some want to consume all the tax credits. Some, don't pay any income taxes at all, or a very low amount, and so need to transfer those credits, which is going to have some friction costs to it. That, just for perspective, if you're transferring, so these are production tax credits, not investment tax credits like the solar and wind side.
Yeah.
So they're a little easier for direct transfer, but it'll probably be 10 to 15% friction beyond that first 5 years of direct pay from the government. Um, but that's kind of the way I've thought about it. And I've used this other analogy in just our Bayou Bend partnership as a way to think about the value of those credits. And so remember, Chevron's 50%, Talos is 25%, and Carbonvert is 25%. So Chevron, let's say we are doing 10 million tons per annum, that's $850 million a year of tax credits that are available. For them, they trade at probably at least a 10 times multiple. So if you flow that 50% of the credit
Hmm.
through for them, they are going to get a higher value for it than, like a Talos Energy that's trading at 2 to 3 times multiples from a stock price. The value of the credit, if they actually consume it themselves, isn't as high as it is for Chevron. And then Carbonvert, pays very little in taxes. I mean, we do pay some, but that credit probably is better consumed by a party that has a higher, you know higher value proposition for consuming it. And that's where things start getting complicated, because the market, for all intangible tax credits, all solar, wind, all the biofuels, has been kind of 18 to 20 billion dollars a year, And
Hmm.
traditionally, financial institutions consume those. Those are, banks and pensions and insurance companies. I just talked about one of our projects. So Bayou Bend as a whole, let's say it's 20 million tons per year. At $85 a ton, we're going to just our one project will add 10% to the entire global ITC market in
Wow.
production taxes. And that's just us. So think about Oxy, Exxon, Denbury, CRC, Talos has other projects. You've got the whole Navigator system in the Midwest that's trying to do injection. You're going to see more in Wyoming. And so there's this flood of production tax credits that are coming into a market that is going to dwarf the 18 to 20 billion dollars of ITCs. And unless we're thinking through ways to build up that market, because if you don't build buyers for that, whenever you flood supply into a market, what happens to
Right.
price? It goes the wrong way, and then those tax credits are worth less, and then the economics of capture go down. The same thing's going to happen in hydrogen. I've seen some studies from some of the energy transition investment funds that the whole production tax credits from IRA can dwarf like all of corporate taxes paid in America
Wow.
as they get transferred. And so it's this really interesting world um, of what happens with those tax credits and how do you transfer them efficiently. And that's one of the things that